morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is your 90-minute warning. Kickoffs at 1, lineups lock at 1. We're here to help you get them set. She's Jessie, Coffield. I'm Emerson, Lotzia. This is The Sweat.
But first, let's get you up to speed on some injury news and notes. Rob Gronkowski has officially been ruled out, but the Patriots do not consider his back injury to be serious.
That's good news because the tight end position has not been fantastic
not great this year
in fantasy.
Not for anyone.
In Washington, Adrian Peterson, he's expected to play, with Chris Thompson not expected to suit up. Isaiah Crowell with the Jets will reportedly play. And
Leonard Fournette is out today. That's not new, but what is? The Jags plan to keep him out the next 2 weeks through the bye, and they have no plans of putting him on the IR.
Yeah, through the November 4th bye, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring in DK Live duo Greg Ehrenberg, Jeff Ulrich. Guys, no Gronk, Sony Michel, Edelman, and Josh Gordon. They're all expected to go despite that questionable tag. What does this mean for Tom Brady's value today, Jeff?
I mean, I don't think it changes too much with Tom Brady's value. I'm still expecting a pass-heavy run plan or pass game here, passing plan for the Patriots this week. The Bears' defensive line is good at stopping the run. I think they're just going to work Julian Edelman a little bit more. You might see Josh Gordon with a few more targets, and you could see some of these peripheral guys like Cordell Patterson, Philip Dorsett get a few more targets as well. But I still think this is actually a pretty good spot for Tom Brady.
Greg, what do you think? How does Tom Brady's value change with no Gronk, but these other guys active?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking forward to the pass-heavy run plan that the Patriots are going to be employing. But outside of that, I do think this hurts Tom Brady a little bit. His career numbers without Gronk on the field have definitely been a little bit worse. 7.85 yards per pass attempt with Gronkowski for his career and 6.93 without Gronk. So I do think it hurts him a little bit. And overall, this is just a tough matchup for the Patriots. They're on the road playing in Chicago. They have a pretty good defense this year, the Bears. So I don't really love the New England offense.
Hey, Jeff, you mentioned Julian Edelman. Would you say he's the Patriots offensive player who was a must-play with Gronk out?
I actually do. I mean, I know a lot of people are trending towards Josh Gordon, and I know he's on the field a lot right now, but he still plays the outside. It's not like Josh Gordon is going to start playing tight end today. Julian Edelman is the guy they'll move around the field. They'll move him inside more. They'll move him outside when they need to. So I think you should look for a big bump in targets for Edelman today. And this is a really good matchup. The Bears are not good against slot receivers. And it's just trends all towards Julian Edelman, in my opinion, having a bigger day. And even with Gronk out, I mean, I still feel like this is the spot where you want to deploy Edelman.
Well, Greg, you already said you're not really interested in any Pats offensive players, so we'll give you this one. The Jags traded for Carlos Hyde this week. He reportedly could play today against the Texans at home. Does this make you want to fade Yeldon?
Yeah, so I didn't really love Yeldon all that much to begin with, and part of the reason just because we have so many good running back plays this week that I don't think we need to go to Yeldon in a tough matchup. Houston is second in the league in defensive rush DVOA this year, and then we also consider that the Carlos Hyde factor, where is Yeldon going to be seeing a full complement of plays in a tough matchup? I'd rather go to like a Kerryon Johnson or Nick Chubb today, who are really good values.
Jeff, do you agree that you're just going to fade Yeldon?
I think so. Now that Hyde's active, if Hyde wasn't active, I think Yeldon actually would have been like an interesting tournament pivot at like 5% owned. But, there's just too big a chance here. What if Jacksonville gets up and then they give Carlos Hyde a goal line carry, or Blake Bortles sneaks it in? And then your Yeldon shares they're done. So I just don't think there's any point in paying up. Greg already mentioned a couple great value plays out there. Yeldon's still expensive, so I just avoid him personally.
Hey, Jeff, Isaiah Crowell of the Jets has been kind of this boomer bust guy this year. It seems like week in and week out. So you think this will be a good week for him?
I don't really love this spot. I mean, the Jets are fairly substantial underdogs. I guess not huge. They're like 3.5 points, but and then you have the added injury factor that Crowell's basically not practicing at all during the week. It's just not really that encouraging. Bilal Powell's still there. I mean, he actually took a pretty big workload. I think he took 16 carries last week. That's a lot for a guy who's known more as a passing back. So I don't know. I guess Crowell, you're going to get 1 or 2% owned because he's like most people thought he would sit. Now he's going to be active, but nah, not for me. Again, there's just better values out there. There's way better values out there, quite frankly.
Greg, $4,400. Would you consider rostering this guy?
No, I mean, like we've talked about, there are better values at running back. And then if you look at Crowell, when is he going to find success? He's very game flow dependent. The Jets have 2 running backs they like to use. It's Isaiah Crowell, who they use when they're ahead, and then it's Bilal Powell, who they'll throw short passes to and kind of play catch up with. And with them being 3.5-point underdogs against the Vikings, who have a really strong rush defense, 9th overall in defensive rush DVOA this year, I think this sets up to be a game where they're going to be using Powell more than they use Crowell because they're going to be catching up. And then also Crowell doesn't really have a great matchup when he's on the field.
Hey, guys, we got the questions pouring in on YouTube and Facebook. So, Jeff, Frank Gore or Duke Johnson, PPR flex?
Oh, if it's full PPR, you got to go with Duke Johnson. I really like this setup. I think the high trade is just as much about the Browns wanting to use Duke Johnson more. So I really like him this week against Tampa.
Going off of that here, Greg, Dexter wants to know, Duke and Chubb stack?
Yeah, so I actually think that this is pretty interesting because I think both of them are good value plays individually. And I think if you were to pair both of them with Baker Mayfield, I think you're kind of cornering a lot of the Browns offense with a combination that most people aren't going to look to make. So I do like that.
We got Jeff. Is Baker a good cash play?
Yeah, I think he's in a pretty solid spot. I mean, obviously he's going up against Tampa, so it's hard for me to say anything bad about the matchup. I'm not as big on Joe Flacco, so I think paying up, if you're going to pay up and you still want to stay under 6K, I think Baker's probably the target there. So, yeah, yes, I think he's a good play.
Yes.
Okay. Greg, does a Goff, Gurley, Wood stack work against the 49ers?
Yeah, it definitely works against the 49ers. It's also going to be very chalky. But I think for good reason. Obviously, Robert Woods with Cooper Kupp out, he's going to be seeing more target share. Gurley's just been ridiculous this year. He scores like 35 fantasy points every week. So yeah, it's definitely sensible.
If you want to make a more contrarian Goff stack, just leave Gurley out and like throw Cooks and Woods in there and just hope they pass for all the touchdowns this week.
Fair enough.
Gurley, pretty damn expensive too.
A little contrarian. We'll get to stacking stuff later, guys.
Sounds
That's going to do it
girlfriend.
for now. Chaser Fade is coming up after this.
Hey, I'm Carolyn Azak, in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Two teams coming off dramatic losses will play tonight for their marquee matchup. The Chiefs are making a second straight appearance on Sunday Night Football, and this could be a disaster for Cincinnati because they just can't seem to win on Sunday nights. Cincy's QB Andy Dalton, or Daytime Dalton, has gone 0 for 5 on Sunday nights. Patrick Mahomes in Chiefs offense is posed to have a great week at Arrowhead. The Chiefs' cannon arm quarterback Mahomes has accounted for 20 touchdowns against 4 turnovers and posted 5 straight 300-yard passing games. Kansas City has other electrifying players, Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt with 6 touchdowns each, and Travis Kelce. But this doesn't mean they can cover Cincy's offense. Ranking 6th was Dalton, who has 14 passing TDs, leading a dynamic attack with A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, and speedy John Ross.
Alrighty, welcome back to the SWAT. Keep those questions coming on Facebook and YouTube. We will answer as many of them as possible, and as you all know, anything is possible.
For now, here's DK Live's Reed Fowler and Anthony Amico of the Action Network here to play some Chase or Fade. Chasing and fading. So with a win against the Ravens today, Drew Brees will have beaten every team in the NFL.
Wow.
And the Ravens defense is really good, first in the NFL in terms of points allowed per game. So chase or fade,
No,
fading.
I don't mind chase or fade.
Chase or fade, but chase or fade. Breeze gets the win
do this.
with 3 touchdowns today. Reed, I did it, guys! Yay for me!
Way to prove. Boom, there it is. Yes, I was waiting for that. I'm going to fade this. Look, I don't mind Drew Brees in some GPPs as a contrarian play. Like, I don't think anyone really is looking at this game, and it could be a nice contrarian stack if you wanted to with Kamara, right? And that's sort of the narrative that you got to say here is, can these guys actually move the ball? And how are they going to move the ball? Well, Baltimore's really good against the pass, really good at home. And so I do think this is a Kamara bounce back game. And really, that's where I think the touchdowns would essentially come from, or multiple touchdowns, is passing to those underneath routes. Now, Baltimore ranks 4th in receptions allowed to running backs and have yet to allow receiving touchdown. While Drew Brees is still Drew Brees, and hopefully he gets this win so he's beaten every single team in the NFL, I don't think he does it on those numbers, but I do like him as a GPP play.
Hot Take City. Anthony, please don't make me repeat that. Are you chasing or fading it?
I mean, I'm fading. I think it's a pretty easy fade, honestly. Going back to the start of last season, Baltimore's allowed 3 or more touchdown passes in a game just 3 times. They averaged 4.7 net yards per pass attempt allowed this year. That ranks 1st in the NFL. And Brees, while he's been better on the road in terms of like Saints wins, losses, he still hasn't produce great passing numbers. He's only gone 3 or more touchdown passes on the road 5 times since the start of 2016. It's really windy right now out there. The total in that game's gone down 1.5 points. I think it's just safe to go with the probability here and fade this.
All right, boys. The Browns are handing the ball over to their rookie running back, Nick Chubb, after trading Carlos Hyde away this week to Jacksonville. Anthony, please chase or fade that Chubb goes for 100 yards and a score against the worst defense in the NFL. That would be the Bucs.
I mean, I think I'm going to fade this. Nick Chubb is going to be popular today. I think that in cash games, you almost have to play him if for no other reason than a block. But, no running backs have rushed for 100 yards and a touchdown this year against Tampa. Only 2 have gone over 100 total yards with a touchdown. And both of those were receiving backs, Alvin Kamara and Tariq Cohen. Tampa plays exclusively in shootouts. The over has hit in every game they've played in this season. I think that this game environment is more of a Duke Johnson game environment, not a Nick Chubb game environment. So I'm going to fade this.
What do you think here, Reed? Because people out there are just drooling over Nick Chubb right now.
I think in terms of a longer play, I think he's a good one. But today I'm going to agree with Anthony here. This is more of a Duke Johnson, especially with Gerald McCoy out. If you look at how you attack Tampa, you pass on them, right? I think you don't want to come out guns blazing necessarily with Nick Chubb and give him 19, 20 carries, which a lot of people are thinking that he's just going to go into this Carlos Hyde role and take all those carries and average to where Carlos Hyde at that time or before was only second or third to Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott in amount of attempts total in the season. I don't think that happens. I think this is more of a 50-50 split. I think you're going to pass more, and that's Duke Johnson. You got to get Duke Johnson going. I think it's going to be a 50-50 split. So to get those numbers on potentially 50% of the snaps, I'm going to fade.
All right, if you want to save money today on quarterbacks, you can look down to Brock Osweiler at 4,700. He had 280 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 picks for 31 DK points last week against the Bears. So, Reed, chase or fade that Osweiler will have at least 30 DK points this week against the Lions. Come on, it's still Brocktober.
Yeah, he's chasing it.
No way. 30 points? I mean, come on. This is Brock luck. I got Brocked last week where I said play against Brock, and he went out and he did this.
We all did, though. We all started Chicago's defense.
Yeah, and so I'm going to say no, and not necessarily that Brock can't do it because we've seen it. He's not done it more than he has, but you also run against the Lions. So I do think Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake do present some GPP value and some leverage at their price tags because they're extremely cheap. And essentially the same thing as trying to hide Blake Bortles, for instance. You're going to want to try and hide Brock Osweiler. There's no real pass catchers that I think they're going to do well in this game. And again, you run on the Lions, so I'm going to fade this.
I mean, Anthony, it is Brock Osweiler, so are you chasing or fading this?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brocktoberfest is over.
No.
He stinks. Last week was a mirage. I mean, Detroit has all week, I think, to prepare for Brock this week. Even if he's average, it's really unlikely he gets to 30. I mean, I think this is going to be paced down. And like Reed said, I think they're going to try to get the run game going and just keep the ball out of Brock's hands.
Good idea.
All right. Yes, great idea. DeAndre Hopkins is in the middle of the pack this week for receivers, 6,900. Nice. He'll face the Jags defense. I got torched by the Cowboys offense last week and Cole Beasley. Chase or fade, Anthony. Hopkins goes for more than 100 yards and a touchdown today.
I'm chasing this in tournaments. I mean, Hopkins has seen 10 targets or more in every game, except for last week when they just, were really ahead the whole game against Buffalo, didn't really have to throw. Hopkins did great against Trey White in that spot, who's a top 15 corner according to Pro Football Focus. And you know who has low-key been pretty bad this year? Jalen Ramsey. He ranks outside of the top 50 in coverage grade for corners at Pro Football Focus. He's probably going to shadow Hopkins today. I like Hopkins in that matchup. I think he goes over.
Yeah, and even last week, Hopkins with the touchdown, 17.3 fantasy points. I mean, the 2 weeks before that, 26, 35. We know how dangerous this guy can be. You're going to chase or fade this one here, Reed?
Yeah, I'm with Anthony. I'm going to chase this. If you look at his past 4 games, right, he's averaged around 6 catches, around 67, 70 yards, and he's still getting these absurd amount of targets in that double-digit mark. So when you look at Nuke Hopkins, again, where are you going to go if you're Watson? He's getting sacked the most, he's getting hurried the most, and Nuke can actually get off the mark against Jalen Ramsey pretty quickly. He's seen it before. He's had success against Ramsey, and so I do think he can hit this mark because I really don't think that you're going to wait to try and get Will Fuller the ball. Kiki Cutie obviously presents some of that target share across the middle, trying to get the ball early. But I'm going to go over here.
All right, guys, we're going to start answering some of these questions that are coming in on the internet. So, Anthony, Ridley or Yeldon as flex?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I'd probably just go with the safe touches there with Yeldon. Ridley's a little banged up right now. Giants slot corner has actually played pretty well this season. I think I'd go with Yeldon.
Hey, Reed, this question coming from Corey Depew. So, obviously, we all know Gronk has been ruled out. So, will Dwayne Allen get a lot of looks today? My guess would be yes.
I mean, he'll get a lot of snaps, but
yeah.
I think it's more of an Edelman game. I think there are other places that you can go that we'll probably talk about a little later in terms of tight end, CJ Uzomah. You're going to do Showdown, obviously, but he's not on the main slate. There's guys out there that you would want to do, even Everett at the Rams. I think he presents some upside more so than Dwayne Allen, so no.
Hey, Anthony, Edward Braden wants to know, should I stack more of Diggs or Thielen with Cousins?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely Thielen. Thielen's been the best receiver in football this year, on pace for over 200 targets, plays in the slot. We're going to talk a little bit more about Thielen later in the show.
Yeah, don't give anything away, guys.
Reed, Traquan Smith, or is it Damian Ratley, I believe the rookie wide receiver for the Browns?
Yeah, I think this game, yes, I know why that question is asked. Damian Ratley, I mean, he saw a lot of target share last week. I really don't think that comes over this week. I think Traquan Smith does present higher upside. Again, GPPs only for this question. Don't play those guys in cash. But I like Traquan Smith in this spot, especially with Ted Ginn on IR.
Okay. Anthony, sounds like somebody's looking for maybe a little bit of a contrarian stack here. Other than Diggs or Thielen, who can Cousins throw to?
I mean, it's got to be Kyle Rudolph, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really the only other guy that this offense goes through in the passing game. I'm not really sure I want to go with any of the deeper options, Aldrick Robinson, the running backs. I think it's got to be Rudolph.
All right, guys. Well, we got to hit a break right now. But on the other side, Pat Mayo joins us live with his must-plays.
Pat Mayo here with an exciting new way to heat up your Sundays this football season. DraftKings has teamed up with Buffalo Wild Wings to bring you a fantasy experience like no other. Blazing Fantasy Football, a new free game only available inside Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Want to win free wings for a year, game tickets, Buffalo Wild Wings gift cards, or Blazin' Rewards points? Here's how. Head to Buffalo Wild Wings, download the Blazin' Rewards app, and join. Already a member? Not a problem. Just log in and fire up the app. Click or tap the Blazin' Fantasy Football icon, join a contest, draft your lineup, and get ready to compete against rivals in all Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Blaze your way up the leaderboard by drafting who you think be the top 8 players, including kickers. Best part, you've got a chance to really rack up the score with your blazing pick. It's worth double points, so choose wisely. Don't just wing it. Draft your team in one of Sunday's 4 contests before each half of the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern games. Then, grab some wings, sit back, and watch your team light up the leaderboard. Come back every Sunday for new contests each week. DraftKings and Buffalo Wild Wings, the right stack for Sundays.
Okay, real quick, friendly reminder, no Gronk today for the Pats, but Sony Michel, Julian Edelman will give it a go despite the questionable tag. Not too many injury news and notes here today, kind of a slow Sunday. Isaiah Crowell expected to play for the Jets. Maybe we'll see Carlos Hyde suit up for the Jags. You saw a report that he is active.
Yeah.
We just don't know how much he's going to play, so maybe be a little weary of that if you're a TJ Yeldon owner. That's just days, by the way, after being traded to Jacksonville from Cleveland.
Yeah, and we're going to continue bringing you guys updates as they roll in. But for now, we go live to Pat Mayo in the PME studios. Take it away, Pat.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Pat Mayo here. Gary and Thorne there. In case you missed the chat from earlier, I know what you're doing. But you have to remember that I will be back live 10 a.m. Monday morning, taking everyone's questions, breaking down the waiver wire, recapping the games. But for now, let's talk about the plays of the day. In terms of the DraftKings Millionaire Maker main slate, we're not going to talk too much about Showdown or Monday night contest or primetime contest. The one guy you need to lock in. Do you just go with Gurley because you can now afford to have him?
Yeah, I think you do. I've got Gurley in a lot of places. I think the thing you have to focus on with Gurley, one, there's the safety. He hasn't scored less than 25 DK points in any single game he's played so far this season. But the Niners are just real bad. That seems like it could definitely be a boon to Todd Gurley. I mean, 5 of the 6 games they've played this season, they've allowed their opponent to score more than their implied team total. Considering the Rams' team total is 32 points, that's about 5 touchdowns. And I don't think the Rams are going to play a game where they possibly score 5 touchdowns where Todd Gurley is not inherently involved in 2 or 3 of those. So, yeah, if you can afford them, and you can, I think it's all about how you're varying yourself from Todd Gurley.
Does that mean you're bringing it back with CJ Beathard?
I do have some Beathard. I do. I think Beathard.
Those have to be Gurley lineups, though.
Yeah,
sure. I would think so.
They
Going
don't
one way.
have to be necessarily.
I think they would. Like, if you think that if the path to a ton of passing volume from Beathard, you think it has to come. You have to bank on one of the Rams guys getting all the points on the other side, or else Beathard's not going to be any good.
That's fair. I would just say that right now I have Beathard lineups. They have Gurley in them, some of them. But I think you can also just have Goff as your QB in a bunch of Gurley lineups. I don't think there's anything stopping you from that either.
Sure, but if you're going to play Beathard, I think you would need to have Gurley on the other side. If you're looking for max correlation.
Sure. I guess, but again, I just think Beathard could stand alone by himself as someone who's going to throw the ball 40 times a game. Now, you're right. The causation for that would be the Rams scoring a bunch of points, but yeah, look, it's fine. I do have Gurley in 90% of my lineups, so there is a lot of crossover there, but
after that, where do you go at running back? Do you drop down and take Nick Chubb? Do you drop down and take Kerryon Johnson? Do you take Latavius Murray in the spot where he and Sony Michel are sort of in that mid-tier? Like a lot of people like Tariq Cohen, a lot of people like Michel. Murray's kind of the least talked about guy, but he's the cheapest, and he has the clearest path to all the volume without Dalvin Cook.
I like Murray a lot this week. And I think, like you said, with Tariq Cohen being $100 more and just in that same tier, there's been so much Tariq Cohen buzz this week, justifiably so. He's done exceedingly well. His role is expanded in that Bears offense. He's in a good matchup this week in a game where likely it'll be more of a Tariq Cohen game than it is a Jordan Howard game, at least in my opinion. But yeah, there's no problem using Latavius. And we've talked about this in the past. I mean, it's kind of, for lack of a better term, the Tevin Coleman effect, where a guy is thrust into the starting role. Everyone gets super excited. He even thrives in that role, as Latavius did last week. But, you know, there's new news. We've moved on to something else, and you almost kind of forget that Latavius is still a value at his price point. I mean, he only jumped $500, was it this week, or $300? I think he was 4.7 last week. But
yeah, he's up to 5K.
It just doesn't seem like that's probably enough for where he should be based upon what his workload in this offense will be. So Latavius and Gurley, I mean, you're locking in about, I would say, 45 touches guaranteed into your lineup, and you're doing it at about $7,500 per running back, which is not terrible.
And especially if the wind does pick up in that game, you would expect more running.
Yes.
To come from the Vikings and from the Jets. And with Crowell being active, you split up the Jets carries. You don't know who's going to do anything there. Like you had mentioned, one rushing touchdown allowed by the Vikings all season long. It's not great.
And I think the worst side of that is just the Jets have been so unable to capitalize on their red zone trips. And that's an offense that's probably not going to have a ton of red zone trips in this game, especially considering the way they've scored a lot of their points recently is through the deep ball. That doesn't seem super viable in the environment with 30 plus mile per hour winds. If they're not going to be scoring on the 2 or 3 drives they get in the red zone, I would bank on Crowell not having a touchdown today.
So the majority of lineups are going to look one way. At least that's what the people are starting their lineups with Gurley, and they're dropping down to Chubb. I have both guys projected at over 30% in the million.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Do you just fade Chubb? Or is he too good of a value to pass
I think it's good chalk. But if you have, like we say, there's only so much chalk you can ingest. So if I'd rather have Gurley. If you're going to be separating yourself from one or the other, which you maybe have to do, I would much rather separate myself from Chubb than from Gurley. Because there are other options too.
There are. And the one thing, like Kerryon Johnson's going to carry a lot of ownership as well. But like, is this now a spot where at the beginning of the week, everyone was jamming in the high-end running backs because there was no value to be had? And then all of a sudden, Theo Riddick's out. Oh, hey, you can play Kerryon Johnson. Oh, Carlos Hyde gets ready. You can play Nick Chubb or Duke Johnson. People are liking Frank Gore down at the bottom. LeGarrette Blount is down there as well. Peyton Barber is someone that people do kind of want to play. Yeah. Latavius Murray gives you a good out in that mid-range. That could you just stack it up? They're both going to be popular, but very few people are playing them together. Gurley and Zeke.
If you could afford it, yeah, and you can. Because there are cheap-end wide receivers. You could play a cheaper quarterback. I know Flacco is going to be popular. But again, I think if there's a position you shouldn't worry about eating the chalk, it's quarterback because it's going to be so spread out anyway. I think Flacco probably tops that at what? 12 or 13%, maybe at the most.
If he even cracks 10. There's still enough people who just don't want to play Joe Flacco.
That's true. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about separation too much at quarterback, but there are savings to be had there.
And I mean, the contrarian move might be to pay up at wide receiver because we're seeing Thielen, Thomas, Evans, Landry, and Diggs, the top 5 in terms of pricing. I don't have a super high degree of confidence in any of those guys that they're going to like 4x their value.
Not really.
So I think that Woods ends up becoming the play at 7,000.
And I think he'll be the chalkiest.
Yes. He most definitely will.
I think it's such an easy pivot to Cooks. And I understand why people are a little hesitant with Cooks because he hasn't quite been as utilized in terms of overall volume share. It seems like he is a little bit streakier, but that works in GPPs. He's already basically your dictionary definition of a GPP play. And like we said, the Rams offense is probably going to be unstoppable today. So if you're going to have a the savings doesn't really matter, or I guess he's $100 more expensive, but yeah, I think there are, just as many outcomes in this game where Cooks has a better game than Woods.
And you can really spend down at receiver if you want to. Like Kurse, despite the wind, is in a very good situation. Taylor Gabriel is in a really good spot. Anthony Miller would probably be the pivot there if you were going to take one. He's only $3,400. Everyone just likes pieces of this Bears offense, but no one's touching him. He has touchdowns in 2 of 4 games he's played.
Yeah, I mean, they're low target share touchdowns.
Sure, but it's $3,400.
Sure.
You're looking to pay down somewhere. You like Willie Snead. Josh Reynolds is in play. So
I'm avoiding Josh Reynolds, but yeah.
Like completely across the board?
Yeah, again, I just think that his matchup right now is with Richard Sherman. Sherman's the least targeted cornerback in the league. And we talked about this earlier. Like, I think that where McVay is going to get Woods and Cooks into situations conducive to their success, I think he has no problem just sacrificing, sort of like the Packers did last week with Equanimeous St. Brown, who was non-existent until the final catch of the game. They were more than willing to say, hey, you take Sherman's side, just make sure we're not going to throw to you anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We'll throw to Robert Woods in the slot. It's fine.
Tight end, Njoku, 4,200.
It's pretty chalky.
It is, but there's a reason it is. It's the play.
It's true. I know if you're paying up for Todd Gurley, it's hard to find the extra 1,200, but if you can make the money work where you're off of Njoku and just on Eric Ebron, I think it's
Kittle
worth
at
it.
5,000.
Yeah, Kittle too. It's a little bit more affordable, but I think either of those guys are in not necessarily much better situations because, I mean, Njoku, 22 targets the past 2 weeks? It seems like it's solid. That's a very high game total. Tampa's struggled immensely with tight ends so far this season, but I mean, he's probably looking at 20, 22, 23% ownership. That's a lot for a tight end.
It is. And tight end, if he doesn't catch a touchdown, you can mine a touchdown out of a tight end from a $2,500 guy. You got to pick the right one.
Yeah.
And no one really knows who
a little bit more
that's going to
challenging,
be.
sure.
But it's a good position to get. Like defense and tight end are usually the positions to get off of chalk pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because they don't come through every single week.
Yeah, the variance is high enough where you don't need that chalk.
Quarterback, where are you going?
Well,
I like Beathard.
I like Beathard and I like Cam.
4,800.
The two most prevalent quarterbacks I have in my lineups are Beathard and Cam. I mean, let's talk about Cam because I think it's the more easy to ingest of the two. But yeah, I just think at the tier of quarterback pricing where Cam is, I mean, we find Wentz. We've talked about this on our show where, just the conditions aren't really the main factor here. It's just that Cam, I think, even in those conditions is the more reliable of the two. He's the higher variance play. He's the higher ceiling play of the two. But also where so many people are going to be going on Baker Mayfield. I get it, but at the end of the day, I think I'd just rather have Cam.
Okay, I like Cam as well. I'm using Cam, and as a contrarian stack, I don't hate that Saints stack. Breeze, Thomas, Kamara.
Sure.
Figure out the rest from there. Just so you get so few opportunities. And I know it's not a great spot. Outdoors, Breeze, people hate that. It's against the best defense in the league. That's not optimal.
No.
But you get so few chances to stack the Saints team that scores all these points at such low ownership. Like no one's taking any of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's a strange situation we have where so often the Saints are the pick, and sometimes you can't stack them because of the price point. But sometimes, and really more commonly, you can't stack the ones you want to stack because it's just such the obvious stack that you try the variance plays, which is tough with the Saints because they are such a concentrated offense. 54% of their target share this season has gone to Kamara and has gone to Michael Thomas. And you can use these guys as the most obvious stack in that most obvious combination. It's really something to like.
Defense to close it out. I think if you can get up to Jacksonville, you take Jacksonville. If not, use the Lions.
Lions are nice. Yeah, don't be giving Brock Osweiler too much credit. I still think there's that tier with Vikings and Colts. I find myself kind of hovering around that quite a bit. But even the Bills, I really don't have that much of a problem playing the Bills against the Colts. I mean, $2,300 is a nice price for a defense who's been, I mean, at least by DVOA, one of the two best units in football the last 4 weeks.
Pass rush has been getting better, but luck gets the ball so quickly. He never gets sacked.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's a lot of volume coming on that side of the ball. Anyway, Pat Mayo Experience will be back Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Don't forget to sub to the audio podcast, too, and just catch up on demand whenever you like. Gary and Thorne will be back a little bit later in the sweat, but that's it for me. Good luck in Week 7. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And, just to be clear, you just heard Pat and Gary mention it. Carlos Hyde, I can't listen or read.
Inactive.
So, not playing.
I told you.
Expect me to disappoint you.
We're working on listening.
And you'll always be disappointed. Or never be disappointed, rather. We're answering more of your questions coming up right after this Papa John's Goodness with Brendan Glasheen, Adam Levitan, and Reed T. Fallon.
How we doing, everybody? I'm Brendan Glasheen, along with a DK Live duo and Adam Levitan and Reed Fowler. They're here to help you make your pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em, presented by Papa John's. Get 25% off any regular menu price orders by using the promo code DK25. We're targeting 3 games in Week 7, guys, with juicy storylines. All right, first up, Tom Brady and the Patriots. They visit Khalil Mack and the Bears. Levy, Brady versus Mack will be fun to watch, but which team wins this football game?
Yeah, it would be really easy to say New England, right? But this is one of those classic NFL letdown spots. You have the Bears coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Brock Osweiler-led Dolphins, and then you have the Patriots coming off of this like Super Bowl-esque atmosphere where they win this wild game against the Chiefs, now a somewhat short week, going on the road to one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. I think the Bears can spring the upset here, and I know that's going to surprise a lot of people.
Okay, Reed, who you got, Pats or Bears at Soldier Field?
I'm taking the easy way out here, Levy. I mean, New England, yes, you're absolutely right. It's a prime letdown spot for New England, and obviously when you see Brady on the road as opposed to home, he's much better at Foxborough. But you look at if this was the Chiefs, for instance, going against the Bears, I would say, yeah, I think this is a place that you would say, okay, Mahomes, rookie, going against a really bad a really good defense, then a letdown spot against Miami. But still, it's Belichick, it's Brady. They know how to scheme. You neutralize Mack. You kind of got the game script. And I think it was less about the Chicago defense being bad and more about, hey, we don't know what to do with Brock Osweiler. And this is crazy. There are some huge chunk plays with Albert Wilson. So I don't think Chicago's in a bad spot. But when you look at this New England team, I think they can figure out how to neutralize that defense. It'll be a close one, but I still think New England ekes us out on the road.
Next game, Cowboys at Redskins, a pivotal NFC East clash as there's a logjam for first in this division, those two teams and Philadelphia. Reed, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, they did just enough. They did plenty against a potent Jaguars defense. Do Dak and Zeke do it again against Washington?
I think they do. And again, this is not, they're not the next big thing now. They're not coming up in the ranks. They still have a lot to prove, but I think you have now a game script where Dallas can win. Look, you're not gonna target Cole Beasley 11 times, right? That's not what you have to do. You have to spread the ball around, but you're gonna rest on your defense and you're gonna rest on Ezekiel Elliott in that run game. 24 attempts in this game. You're gonna see him around that 18 to 20, I think, in this game against Washington. Washington's defense is regressing a little bit. They're dealing with a plethora of injuries as well. But now with Dallas, right, you have now a game script where you can say, hey, look, we have to rest on our defense, who's ranked 3rd in total defense behind the Bears and behind the Ravens, I believe. And now you go into Washington against a team, again, with a lot of injuries. So I do think that Dallas ekes this out, in this division game. And Jacksonville, a little scary, right? Now put up 40 against Jacksonville. That has to mean something. So I do think they win this game.
What's your gut telling you for this game, Levitan?
Yeah, once again, I'm not going to overreact to 1 week, and a lot of people are going to see the Cowboys absolutely trounce the Jaguars and assume the Cowboys are good. I still think this is one of the worst teams in the NFL, no matter what we saw last week. They just have no pass game weaponry whatsoever, and I know they played well against the Jaguars. Do not think they'll play well against the Redskins team, which offensively, I do think they have a good chance to get back Chris Thompson, get back Jamison Crowder, Jordan Reed is healthy. They should be able to move the ball on this Cowboys defense. I agree with Reed that people don't realize this Cowboys defense is actually good, but still think the Redskins can find the way here.
And finally, Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs are on Sunday Night Football again. This time, KC is home versus the Bengals. Levy, Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, the rest of the gang, do they bounce back?
Yeah, I think so. And for me, I'm more concerned with this Bengals team without Tyler Eifert, without Gio Bernard, without John Ross. There's just not as much explosion there. And Andy Dalton is not the kind of quarterback that makes plays for himself. When he had all that great weaponry around him, he was looking really strong. Now it's much, much, much more shaky. So they're going to have a hard time keeping up with Patty Mahomes.
Reed, take us home. Chiefs or Bengals Sunday night?
Yeah, I think this is going to be kind of what we saw last time at who has the ball last, right? I mean, both of these defenses going on the other side of the ball, what Levy was saying, Cincinnati's defense is ranked 26th in total defense, and we know Kansas City's defense is bad. We just saw it. So I do think that Patty Mahomes, they're in a perfect spot here. And Levy's right. Like Cincinnati, in terms of the offense, we kind of see this as a letdown spot with Andy Dalton. They have the weapons, but really when you really only have a couple like Mixon and even AJ Green to an extent, right? We've seen them go up and down this year. I do think that Patty Mahomes, they're just too good. They have too many weapons. Patty Mahomes can get out of the pocket and make plays happen, and Andy Dalton can't. So I agree with Levy here. It's Kansas City.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. That'll do it for this week's edition of Make Your Pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em, presented by Papa John's. For Adam and Reed, I'm Brendan. Talk to you next week.
Hey, what's up? Hello, I'm Jessie.
Hey, everybody.
He's Emerson, and we could stand here and listen to ourselves talk all day. All day.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, you guys would definitely rather hear from our experts and like get their anchor picks and stuff.
For sure. So welcome back, Jeff Ulrich and Greg Ehrenberg of DK Live, plus the Action Network's Anthony Amico. Let's get those anchor picks, gents. Who you're building your lineups around. Greg, your pick, please. Go ahead. You're first.
Yeah, so I've heard him be poo-pooed on a little bit today, but Nick Chubb, he's still only 3,600, and I still think of him as kind of like a free square. Like, he's so cheap. He's a starting running back. He's in a good matchup, and there's so little that he needs to do to actually hit value. Like, if he catches, like, 2 passes and runs for 50 yards, then he's a good play for his salary. I just don't think there's a lot of chance that he busts at the price and the opportunity that he has.
All right, well, what about you, Jeff? Who are you going to anchor?
I like skipping Nick Chubb and paying up to Kerryon Johnson. I mean, I think there's some people scared about this Amir Abdullah factor, and yes, he is active, but the Lions moved on from Amir Abdullah for a reason. He wasn't good, and I just can't see them all of a sudden inserting him into a trustworthy role in their offense. Kerryon Johnson got double digits in pretty much every game he's played. Now he's going to get more passing targets, most likely. He's going up against a much better, running defense, much worse running defense, I guess, a much better matchup than Nick Chubb. I think it's a smash spot for Kerryon Johnson. I could easily see him, getting more involved in the pass game, possibly just taking over the game, even from LeGarrette Blount. 4,500. I think you just pay up. I think it's a better spot for Johnson than Chubb, personally.
Anthony, who's your anchor?
I mean, I'm going with Todd Gurley, who is, to me, the definition of an anchor play. At least 25 DraftKings points in every game so far, at least 5 targets in 5 of 6 games, at least a touchdown in every game. I mean, this contest has the second highest total on the main slate. There's really no reason to think Gurley's going to slow down. And, going along with, I guess, the first 2 anchor plays, there's a lot of value on this slate. So just lock in Gurley.
All right, guys. Well, for good measure, why don't you tell us who you see as the best option for DST this week? Start us off, Greg.
Yeah, so I actually also do like Kerryon Johnson a lot, like Jeff does as a play, and you could run him back with the Lions' defense special teams. So I think that a lot of people will look at what Brock Osweiler did last week and look at how the Lions' defense has not been great this year and think that they shouldn't play them. But I think we could get the Lions at near min price, 5% ownership, and they're still playing against Brock Osweiler. Like, I don't know if we need too much more analysis than it's Brock Osweiler playing against a defense that's almost min price. There's so much upside there. Like, all it takes is one bad pass that goes back for a touchdown with a pick 6, and it's one of the best plays on the slate.
Jeff, any defenses you are looking at?
There are some defenses I'm looking at, actually.
Wonderful.
Thanks for asking. I definitely don't mind the Lions pick. Obviously, if you like Kerryon Johnson, correlating it with the running back, the main carry running back, is always a good play. I think a sneakier play this week, though, might be the Cowboys. Sean Lee is active. This is a big development for the Cowboys defense. They're just much more effective with Sean Lee on the field. Secondly, Washington is basically down every single skill player. No Chris Thompson, no Jamison Crowder, Paul Richardson is out. It's basically just Alex Smith sitting back there saying, like, who do I throw to? Cowboys pass rush has been very good. They have good shutdown corners. I like the spot for the Cowboys. They're going to be really, really under-owned.
Anthony, your pick, please. And I'll admit, I spit out my coffee and I wasn't even drinking any when I saw this.
That's a fact.
I'm going with the Bucs today. I mean, I think we're going to see scoring in Tampa, but we got to start making our DST choices based on events that we expect in the game, not points allowed. Baker Mayfield's 3 starts. He's been sacked 12 times. He's thrown 5 interceptions. Every DST that they have faced with Baker starting has gone for at least 10 DraftKings points. And Tampa's only 2,300, so they don't have to do a ton. Even if they give up some points here, I think that the sacks and the turnovers are going to get them the value.
Well,
how do you counteract Major Brown's chalk week? Just play the defense that's going up against them.
Jeffrey, filled with so much
sneaky,
knowledge.
sneaky.
Guys, let's roll through some questions real quick. We'll kind of stick with that Bucks game here. Anthony, I'll let you take this. You start Breeze or do you start Winston?
Oh, it's definitely Jameis. I mean, Winston has the highest floor and the highest ceiling probably of any quarterback today. He's averaging over 300 passing yards per game dating back to the start of last year, in games he's played healthy. So I just think he's a smash every week right now.
Hey, Jeff, sticking with the defensive theme, Ravens or Colts defense today, if you had to pick one of those?
I think you have to go with the Colts. I'm not super high on them. I think Derek Anderson's actually a better quarterback than Nathan Peterman, but I don't like starting defenses against the Saints. I just think that's a mistake. So I'd go with the Colts.
Greg, Breida or Kenyon Drake?
I mean, if those are the options, then I'd say Kenyon Drake. But with that said, there's so many good running back plays on the slate, and there's so much good value. Like, I don't really see any need to go to, a Breida or Kenyon Drake today.
Hey,
what? Go ahead, Jeff.
Chime in.
Kenyon Drake, great spot. His PPR, his pass catch, his receptions are up.
Wow, Jeff, you
Drake,
have me
come
sold.
on, Greg, get on the Drake train. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope you play Kenyon Drake over Chubb and over Duke Johnson and over Kerryon Johnson today.
Everyone loves the Drake.
Already done. That's right.
Hey, Anthony, Mark Ingram versus Baltimore's defense, yay or nay?
I mean, it's definitely a no for me. I don't think that this is going to be an Ingram game. I think that they're going to have to throw the ball to Kamara today if they want to win.
I know everyone's pretty high on Thielen, so is he a good play here, Jeff? He's going to be a little chalky, right? I don't know. Hey, I just want you to answer. I want you to answer Dak Stewart's question. I'm just the messenger, buddy.
Thielen's fine. I mean, look, I actually talked about this early in the week. He's actually underpriced. He's putting up Antonio Brown numbers, yet he's $600 cheaper than Antonio Brown actually was last week. So yeah, he's a good play. If you want to get tricky and fancy like me in GPPs, go to Steph Diggs, I guess. But that's just for dumb people like me. Just play Thielen.
All right, thanks, guys. We got plenty more from you coming up here on The Sweat. We've got top stacks on the way coming up on The Sweat.
Hey, I'm Taryn Azak, and it's time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. It's Week 7, and the Patriots have some key players questionable to play today against their matchup against the Bears. So we won't be seeing any Gronk spikes out on the field as Rob Gronkowski ruled out to play due to his back injury that keeps popping up. And he did not make the trip to Chi-Town with his team, according to Adam Schefter. With Jacob Hollister also out, the Pats will be relying heavily on Dwayne Allen as he should see the bulk at tight end. And more bad news for the Patriots. Bears star linebacker Khalil Mack is expected to play. He was limited all week with a sprained ankle. But a big positive for the Pats, Edelman, Josh Gordon, and Sony Michel were all marked questionable, but now are expected to play in today's game. So, without the Patriots' leading passing catcher taking the field, it could be big games for other receivers. But don't rule Gronk out in the coming weeks, though, as he is expected to return for Week 8 against the Bills.
Welcome back to everyone's favorite show, The Sweat. And we've got everyone's favorite duo, Reed Fowler and Gary Thorne, here to talk stacks with us.
All right. We can just make statements like that because there are no rules on the internet.
That's true. I read that on the internet.
Let's start out, though, with your top stacks for Week 7. Go ahead, Reed. Lead us off.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with, and this guy's been talked about quite a bit, as well as both of them, actually, Baker Mayfield and David Njoku. I think when you look at this matchup, it sets up really nicely, and I get it. Baker has been sacked and has thrown interceptions, as a rookie does. But if you look at Tampa Bay's defense, really, really bad. Baker's thrown for 41, 45, and 46, respectively, in his last 3 attempts, and I think, or last 3 outings, excuse me, and I think that continues here. Tampa Bay is giving up 3 TDs a game to opposing quarterbacks. While he still may throw an interception, I think at 5,600, he is a lock. David Njoku, you talk about target share over the last 3 weeks amongst tight ends, running backs, and receivers. He's inside the top 20. He's seeing 10 targets on average over the last 3. I know that Garen has mentioned that he will be chalk in that 25%, but in terms of tight end, I'm gonna be willing to eat that chalk because what you can potentially get going against Tampa Bay's bad defense against tight ends, I like it a lot.
It's interesting. Why did Anthony Amico of the Action Network last block, though, say that Tampa Bay is his must-start defense today?
Very strange.
Why would he say that, Reed?
Well, I think when you look at defenses this year especially, and we've seen it with the Colts and we've seen it with other defenses as well, is they give up a lot of points, but they also get a lot of – so they give up a lot of points to opposing teams, but they get a lot in terms of fantasy football, right? Get sacks, interceptions, these things where they're allowing a lot of points, but they're still scoring a lot. So points allowed isn't the only metric that you got to look at. In Tampa Bay, yes, they give up a lot, but when you look at that opposing team in that matchup, Baker does get sacked a lot, that offensive line. And if he's immobile, if that ankle injury is still something and he has to stay back in the pocket and those receivers can't catch, then that defense becomes a very good contrarian play, especially because no one's going to play him.
Okay, Gary, and who are you stacking?
Yeah, Reed mentioned chalk, and that's really what top stacks are all about, is we're going to get a little chalky here, and I think you can't ignore the Rams at this point. And thankfully, the way this slate kind of breaks down, there is so much value towards the bottom of running back and wide receiver that you can afford a stack that has the top price quarterback in Jared Goff, the top price running back in Todd Gurley, and two of the top 6 highest priced receivers in Cooks and in Woods. I don't think you can get both those receivers in there. Maybe get a little tricky with like Gerald Everett, but I just don't see how this team doesn't score 30 plus points in this game. I mean, the 49ers have allowed their opponent in 5 of 6 games to exceed their implied point total for the week. And the Rams' implied point total today is 32 points. So quick math in my head tells me that's about 5 touchdowns. So I just feel like this team is so heavily concentrated with how they utilize their weapons. You know who's going to be involved in these touchdowns, and it makes them very, very easy to stack, especially against the team in the 49ers, who are also towards the bottom of the league, if not dead last in forced turnovers. They just can't stop anyone. So the Rams are going to score a bunch of points.
Okay, so Garion just mentioned you're going to have to get a little chalky with those top stacks, but what about if you're going to be a little sneaky? Get those plays that have less chalk. Look for a contrarian stack here. What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, I'm going to go Mitch Trubisky and Tariq Cohen. Look, this is not necessarily contrarian in terms of the players that we've seen coming off a bye. We see this with some other sports as well, coming off a bye, or if there's an injury that some of these guys go unknown. Mitch Trubisky, 300 plus yards last 2 games, 100 total yards rushing the last 2 games. And again, looking at New England's defense against quarterbacks, not that good. Again, they played Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. But this is going to be a high-scoring game. And when you look at the main slate, a lot of the high-scoring matchups or the plus matchups that we do have aren't on the main slate, so you have to go elsewhere. And I think when you look at this opportunity that Chicago has, really to play against in a high-scoring game, what we've seen so far, and Tariq Cohen, his snap count has gone up and up and up, and Jordan Howard has gone down conversely. So to me, when you look at this matchup, you're going to have to throw the ball. You're going to have to keep up with New England. I know Gronk is out, but that doesn't mean that these guys in New England can't score. Mitch Trubisky is someone that I'm looking at, especially at that lower price tag. When you have the Bakers around that 5K range is really good for quarterbacks this slate. And Tariq Cohen is just a guy that can get you immense amount of points PPR-wise. So that'd be my contrarian stack. In terms of Mitch Trubisky, more so than Tariq Cohen.
All right, Garion, give us your contrarian stack, please.
I think bringing it back against the Rams is not a terrible idea. I know Pat Mayo, we were talking earlier, one of the things he really liked to do if you're going to play someone like C.J. Beathard is pair him with Todd Gurley, with the understanding that Gurley is going to be bringing in so many DK points on his own that Beathard's going to have to do something to get that back for the 49ers. We've seen this all year long, teams playing the Rams. Opposing offenses are throwing on 65% of their snaps against the Rams because they play from behind all of the time. The Rams have actually only been trailing on 22% of their own offensive snaps. It's the lowest rate in the league. So we are talking about a very pass-heavy script for the 49ers. And it seems like if they're going to get in a situation like that, something we saw back in week 5, they're probably going to throw it to Kittle, who I think is at a nice middle-tier price point, $5,000 at the tight end position this week, just a little bit under Eric Ebron. And then even Marquise Goodwin. I'm not asking for his price point to be inflated because of one game he had on Monday Night Football, but he seemed like he was healthy. Definitely flashes the speed that helps open up that offense. And Marcus Peters, I know we focus so much on Aqib Talib and that injury and how Peters has been doing well, funnel effect, et cetera, et cetera. Pro Football Focus ranks Marcus Peters right now as the 106th cornerback of the 111 who qualify. He's had a pretty bad season, and the Rams defense has really not lived up to expectation at all so far this year. So I don't mind stacking together that 49ers passing game, kind of keyed around Kittle and Marquise Goodwin.
We have time for a couple questions. Reed, Omar Shuhaybar would like to know, John Brown or Kenny Golladay?
You go to Kenny Golladay. He's the number one receiver in that offense. John Brown, I know that presents a pretty good matchup against the Saints, but that game could, for some, there's a narrative that game's low scoring. So I'm going to go Golladay.
Hey, Gary and Josh Gordon, Nick Chubb, or Sanu as a flex spot in a PPR league.
I think in a PPR at that point, I would just go with the safety of Nick Chubb. I think you're looking at somewhere between 16 to 18 touches for Chubb. I don't see why his role would differ all that much from what Carlos Hyde was trotting out there, except for the fact that now you don't have to deal with like 10% of the snaps going to a Nick Chubb type. So, yeah, I'm in on Chubb this week.
Reed, Roy Ender would like to know, D.D. Westbrook or Albert Wilson?
D.D. Westbrook. Don't play. I mean, Albert Wilson's probably going to have the biggest come back down to earth game. And Gary can probably speak to this more as a Dolphins fan, but I go D.D. Westbrook.
All right. Thank you guys for your service. We appreciate it. Thanks for stacking with us as well. More analysis coming your way, so do not close your browsers, people of the internet.
Don't do it.
Either. Pat Mayo here with Sunday's blazing game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's begin at running back, where two names stand above the rest on the Sunday main slate, Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott. Both are awesome, so we need a tiebreaker. Since there's a chance Jared Goff just tosses all over the 49ers, or they decide to shut it down early, side with Zeke. Elliott's seen an insane 27 touches on average the last 3 games, controls the goal line opportunities, and has proved that he can no longer be written out of any game script with a marked improvement in the receiving game. Plus, despite shutting down Christian McCaffrey on the ground last week, Washington is still a bottom 5 rush defense. At receiver, like every other week this season, keep on rolling Adam Thielen through your lineup. After dropping another 11 catches, 123 yards, and a score on Arizona, Thielen still hasn't seen fewer than 10 targets, 6 receptions, or 102 yards in any game this year. Plus, the Jets secondary, still banged up, and the potential return of Dalvin Cook will force the defense to not overload on Thielen and Diggs in coverage. Finally, the big wild card of the week will be at pivot. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Dalton, Phillip Rivers, and Matt Ryan are all off the main slate. Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, and Tom Brady draw tough matchups. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Ben Roethlisberger all on bye weeks. So you may as well roll the dice with, and I'm serious, Joe Flacco at home against the Saints. Now hear me out on this. The Saints have given up the most DraftKings points to quarterbacks this season, and the Ravens love tossing it around the field. Flacco's averaging 46 pass attempts the past 5 weeks, and that shouldn't change with Baltimore playing with the second fastest pace of any team in football. In a weird week at quarterback, plug your nose and roll the dice with Elite Joe. Those were your blazing game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, guys, quick update for you. Duke Johnson is actually going to be starting for the Browns today, not Nick Chubb, as previously reported. That's because Carlos Hyde was traded to Jacksonville. He is inactive against the Texans.
Inactive.
Inactive.
We can do it.
Not playing.
Yes.
Rob Gronkowski, inactive. Not playing in Chicago with the Patriots.
But now it's time for a very special segment, allegedly our highest rated segment.
Roll the open!
Loved by all, hated by none. He's got his own animation. DK Live Steve Buchanan is here for Put Up Your Bukes. And
jacked he looks in that
Greg Ehrenberg also here to fight him on these. So Steve, you're going to give us your top picks for today. And Greg, you're going to debate him on this. So who do you like most this week? Give us also some DK fantasy point projections, please.
Yeah, I really like Devin Funchess this week. I mean, he goes against arguably some of, if not the worst corners in the league. I mean, Ronald Darby has been targeted against 52 times this season, allowing 33 receptions with 2 scores. Jalen Mills targeted against 41 times with 26 receptions and a score. You know, Funchess has also been getting some work in the red zone as well. He saw 2 targets last week. I don't like this spot at all for Christian McCaffrey. If you're going to beat the Eagles, it's going to be through the air and certainly not on the ground. I think Funchess should be in a great spot today. I like him for 17 DK fantasy points against the Eagles.
Greg, he's $5,300. He's averaging 13.2 DK fantasy points a week. I mean, he got 18.4 last time out, but only 9.3 the time before. So what do you think? Is he going to make it to 17?
So he's scored 17 fantasy points once the entire season. And if you also look at the Eagles' defense, they're not nearly as bad as Steve is making them out to be. The Eagles
come on.
10th in pass DVOA, 14th in DVOA against number one receivers. So they've just kind of been average, just slightly above average. So if we're looking at Funchess, who averages 13 DraftKings points per game, for him to get to 17, I would have to say this is a really plus matchup for him. And I don't think that's the case. And the other thing we also have to consider, the weather is terrible today for the passing game. 22-mile-per-hour winds. You don't care about the weather at all? Does the wind not matter to the passing
Steve, we
game?
thought you were a weatherman.
So overblown. Is it a blizzard out? No.
It's
Calm
overblown.
down.
Do you guys get that?
By the way, I don't even care about a blizzard. If it was a blizzard, I would say cool. I don't care. But wind does make a difference in the passing game. They're going to have to throw downfield to Funchess for him to hit 17 DraftKings fantasy points. And 22 to 25-mile-per-hour winds, that's a big deal to a passing game.
Yeah, I will say this. I have played a flag football game with 20-mile-per-hour winds.
Okay.
And it does make a difference.
We're already done with you. We're already done with you. Hey,
and
Steve.
have you ever peed into the wind? How did it work out? Doesn't go very well.
It doesn't go well.
No, man, I had to shower.
Especially not for him. So, Steve, it would appear you have some pushback on your first pick, but why don't you put up your second buke for us?
I mean, I guess if you want to call that pushback, then sure, I guess that was pushback.
Ooh, you heard that, Greg? Ooh.
Listen, after last night's melee in LA, there is nobody I'd rather throw hands with than Steve Buchanan.
Oh, let's go. This is the best put up your bukes ever.
Hot take.
Go ahead, Steven.
Oh.
His go-to, not interested. Oh.
Anyways, let's talk about Willie Snead. He's really been involved in the Ravens offense as of late. Plays out in the slot on 73% of his snaps this season. The Saints just absolutely have no coverage against guys operating out of the slot. He's seen 24 targets over the last 3 weeks. And did we mention the fact that it's the revenge narrative? He's going against his old team, the Saints. Give me the revenge city all week here. He's been a huge part of this offense. I think this is going to be a little bit more higher scoring than people are giving it credit for. I think this is a really, really good spot for Snead, so I like him for 15 DK fantasy points today.
Greg, 15 DK fantasy points. So the last 4 times out, he had 13, 10, 11, and 6. So is he going to make it to that mark?
Yeah, I don't think so. And here's the deal with Snead. I think he's a very safe play today. I just don't think there's a ton of upside for him. If you look at his game log, he's in between 10 and 14 fantasy points almost every single game he plays, and he never really goes above that. So if I'm looking for upside in the Ravens passing game, I'm going to Michael Crabtree over Willie Snead, who's only marginally more expensive. Crabtree has 2 touchdowns this year. The last time that Snead scored a touchdown was week 1. So I just don't see where he's going to get to all those extra fantasy points. And also we look at Crabtree. He's been 10-plus targets almost every single game this year. If Snead was cheaper and Crabtree was more expensive, I would say Snead makes sense. But when there's so little of a price difference between the two, just give me Crabtree.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to roster Crabtree if, drops counted as plus fantasy points. You'd get like 5.
Yeah, well, he scores more fantasy points than Willie Snead anyway, so why does it matter?
Yeah, it's not happening. If I was in New Jersey, I would bet on it. You can do it. Why don't you do it?
What? Skirt? What did you say? We didn't hear that. Anyway, can we get your third pick, please, Steve Buchanan?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Duke Johnson here. I mean, I think in tournaments, I think it makes a lot of sense to put Johnson in over Chubb. I mean, he's going to be a lot more involved in this offense than he has, I think, all season long. And look, Johnson is a poor man's James White. When he's not going to get you carries, but he's going to get you those PPR points. I mean, I think he has a legitimate shot of being a big part of this game here today, with all the attention being on Chubb here, and rightfully so. There's absolutely nothing wrong with playing Nick Chubb, but in tournaments, I think I really like Duke Johnson in this spot here. 14 DK fantasy points doesn't sound too crazy. I think that's totally obtainable. But no, Greg's going to say, he hasn't done it all season long. Yeah, well, the whole dynamic changed. So what do you got to say about that?
The dynamic definitely has changed because Duke Johnson is actually starting. Nick Chubb is not. So the dynamic has changed. So is he going to get there, do you think, Greg, now that he's the starter?
Yeah, so what do we do after a fight? We embrace. So I'm going to have to agree with Steve here. I think Duke Johnson's a great play today. I think that he's a core guy, especially now that we know that he's starting over Nick Chubb. I think that Duke Johnson's going to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate now, but I think it's very justified. I think he's one of the top plays. He's going to be involved in the passing game. He's been ridiculously efficient this year, and the only thing that's really been holding him back has been his snaps, his playing time, his touches, and all that goes up now.
Wow. See,
well
we're all
done,
friends.
You two. That's how you end the segment.
Yeah.
We can all get along. It's official.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A dummy.
Thank you very much. We have Thorn in My Side coming up, and we'll be answering more of your questions coming in on Facebook and YouTube.
Call us, beep us if you want to reach us. Yeah.
Welcome to $1 Million Picks, presented by Roman. ED Meds, prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com. I'm Adam Kaufman, and we're here to make you money. The goal, of course, identifying players with the most upside for the main slate Sunday. So we're going to check in with our $1 Million panel here, Reed Fowler and Adam Levitan. Levy, you go first. Who do you like? Who can have $1 million impact this weekend?
I know it's been a real struggle for Jarvis Landry since Baker Mayfield took over, but this is the best possible spot for a pass game, best possible spot for all wide receivers, and on top of that, best possible spot for a slot wide receiver that, of course, is against the Tampa Bay Bucks. So with so many injuries to the pass game with the Browns, Jarvis Landry is going to continue to see a massive target share as he plays a version of the Antonio Brown role. Baker's just got to get hot, and I think he can do it here.
Yeah, I agree with that pick. I mean, if I'm looking at staying in that wide receiver market, for me, it's going to be Robert Woods. He's quietly been the best receiver in terms of yards per game on the Rams. And now with Cooper Kupp sitting out with that injury, Robert Woods comes into this game going up against San Francisco. He's seen 8 targets. He's getting about 85 yards per game, 6 receptions. This guy, I mean, he's going up against the secondary in San Francisco coming off a short week. Again, looking to gain a lot of that traction. I don't think San Francisco can stop a guy like Robert Woods. And my second guy, this is more of a contrarian pick, so there are a lot of other picks out there. But if you're going for the millie, you need this. Blake Bortles, he's going up against a Houston team that's 22nd in pass DVOA. They give up a ton of yards. And so if you take away the Buffalo and that Dallas game, we really don't have pass games to talk about, they're giving about 27 points, and they give up about 300 yards in the pass game when they're on the road. So Blake Bortles, 5,200 GPPs, contrarian play.
I'm okay with that. Love Robert Woods, certainly with Kupp out. My last guy is going to be Jermaine Kearse. We know Quincy Enunwa isn't going to play in this game. That locks Jermaine Kearse into the slot role, and he's been really productive there going back to last year. So we're going to need to save some money if we want to get to Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Jarvis Landry, etc. I think we can save it with Jermaine Kearse.
All right, $1 Million panel likes the Bort coin. Time to invest. Enjoy the games. We'll see you next week on $1 Million Picks, presented by Roman. ED Meds, prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com.
All right, guys, time to see who Garion really hates. It's thorn in my side. Roll the open.
Nice.
Let's go. Look at all those thorns.
Oh,
all
man.
right. The 3 players he's fading hard on today's slate, with Steve and Jeff here to debate the picks.
All right, who's your first thorn, Garion?
Well, let's delight Steve right now and keep talking about the wind. Not really. Carson Wentz, I just have no interest in playing Wentz today. I know he's looked better the last 3 games. He's put up 24 DK points in each one of those contests, but I just look at the quarterbacks he's grouped with on this slate. Even if the wind is something that concerns you, and I don't want to dismiss it entirely, I would say 20-mile-per-hour winds are a concerning thing. But if you're going to play a quarterback in the wind in this game, why wouldn't you just play the quarterback who, you know, calls his own number on the goal line and who has a cannon attached to his right shoulder? I just think Cam Newton is such a better play in this particular matchup. I'm willing to save $100 for who I think is the better player. So I have all my exposure in this particular tier of quarterback completely tied to Cam Newton. Not to mention the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line from a pass blocking capacity has been terrible so far this season. They have one of the 6th worst adjusted sack rates in the league as a unit. I just don't like a lot of the surrounding voodoo here for Carson Wentz.
All right, let's go to our favorite local weatherman, Steve Buchanan. How much are you considering fading Carson Wentz?
I thought this was like a shot by Garion because I wrote up Carson Wentz earlier in the week, so I thought like he was like actually gunning for me here in this segment, but he didn't go there. So you know,
He's gunning for you, Steve.
Apparently he's gunning for me, and he wants to save $100. Like he's just that stingy of a guy.
It was the weather thing. I just wanted you to talk about the wind a little bit. I know how much you love being weatherman.
Oh yeah, that's my thing there. I just feel like Wentz is just too cheap for this matchup. I mean, 6,000 is not really asking a lot for Carson Wentz. And then when you look at the Panthers' defense, I mean, they've allowed over 275 passing yards, except twice this season. That was against Dak Prescott and Alex Smith. So I mean, come on, the Falcons, Bengals, Giants all managed over that mark with 2 touchdowns each. I mean, pairing Wentz with Alshon is like one of my favorite plays of the week. I think Wentz is looking absolutely fantastic at this spot. I mean, if I want to be a stingy old lady, I mean, yeah, I guess I'll try to save $100. I don't mind Cam at all. I think he's a great play, but Wentz is totally in play here, even with the win.
Hey,
I'm going to just pile on. Well, let's just cyberbully Gary in the whole segment. How can you like Cam Newton and not like Carson Wentz because of the win? It makes no sense. They're both mobile.
One of them scores more points than the other on a consistent
basis. Those are the favorites in this game. They have the higher implied team total. I don't know how you can like one and not the other, but okay, sure.
Well, I mean, it is crazy. I don't want to break this to you guys. I don't want you to be too shocked to continue with the segment, but you can only play one quarterback per lineup. So actually, you kind of have to like one or the other. And I like Cam.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I'm going here.
That is a great
Did you guys know that? That's good to know.
No idea.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm getting really worked up, Steve.
Gary, and what's your beef with James White, dude?
I just don't like where his price point is in this particular matchup. I mean, if you want to just say he's in the $7,000 tier of running back and he's a top 5 priced RB on this particular featured slate, you look at the other names that he's being associated with at similar price points, there's just so much more guaranteed volume with guys like Christian McCaffrey, with TJ Yeldon. Even if you want to go down to Mark Ingram, I look at James White and I see a walking 15 DK points, and that's fine when he's priced at 4 or 5, but when he's priced at 6-9, especially considering by DVOA, the Bears have been the best defense in football at limiting pass-catching running backs. I just don't think this is a good spot. And even people are going to argue that Rob Gronkowski, I mean, that'll create a funnel effect to other members of this team. Gronk was only getting 16% target share on the routes he was running. It's not like it was up at 30%. It's not like we're seeing his 10 targets distributed elsewhere. It's more like 5 or 6. So I just think White's going to have an okay game, but not do nearly enough to reach value in this spot against the Bears.
Jeff, is Gary onto something here? James White, a little too pricey at 6,900?
I mean, he's definitely, the price jump is a little bit shocking to me too. So I'll dial it back a little bit here. I mean, I think if you're going to roster a Patriot and you want to get a little bit sneaky, it's Edelman. It's not James White, because the Bears D line is really good and they've been good at limiting running backs pretty much the whole year. That being said, it's a pretty interesting tournament spot for like a Patriot stack. So if you're going to go with Brady, I think White and maybe even Edelman together is actually a pretty interesting play. So I wouldn't write him off completely, but I agree. The price makes him a little bit, it's hard to swallow, except unless you're going, like I said, full Patriot stack.
Steve, did I see you nodding your head in agreement there?
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be a game where Brady's going to have all this time to throw downfield. I mean, like guys like Josh Gordon are totally a tournament play because he's not going to have all that time in the pocket to throw. It's going to be a lot of those checkdowns, and James White and, like Jeff said, Julian Edelman are perfect guys for that spot. But yeah, White is a little expensive here. When you look at all the passing down backs, they're averaging just 23 yards a game against the Bears so far this season. They're just not getting it done. But if that's the way they're going to have to beat the Bears, then so be it. I mean, yeah, Gronk out of the lineup, that does nothing for me. He's been almost a complete non-factor in the offense for the Patriots. So that doesn't really bother me. And honestly, if you want to get a running back in this game, like Tariq Cohen feels like the answer. He feels like the most reasonable guy to take on the Bears side there. But I don't mind James White. I don't mind Edelman, but I'm not going out of my way to get him in my lineup.
And Gary, and Traquan Smith, a former member of the defending national champion UCF Knights. Come on.
Yeah, this might be more season-long than it is DFS, but we got a lot of questions this morning about, do I play Traquan Smith? Do I start Traquan Smith? I understand it. He's coming off a huge game. You want parts of that Saints offense, but this is just not an ideal spot in Baltimore against probably the best defense in the NFL. And if there is a single team that really telegraphs how they're going to be distributing the football, it's the New Orleans Saints. 54% of their team target share so far this season has gone to 2 men, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And you'd have to think that after that, you're going to have Mark Ingram well more in line. We don't know what the separation in the snaps of the targets is going to be with Cam Meredith. There's just so many other ways to save money here. Again, this might be more of a season-long thing, but there is no way I'm putting Traquan Smith into a lineup today, even though he does have a bit of a ceiling.
Jeff, is there any way you're going to be putting Smith into your lineup? Your best friend Reed Fowler loves this guy.
Oh, okay. Well, this is an easy fade then. Honestly, I don't even know what Traquan Smith's price is because that's how little interest I have.
$3,700. He's $3,700.
I don't know. I mean, like, it's the Ravens. It's a road game. I mean, everyone going off last week, I was in the Superdome with like Drew Brees' birthday party or whatever it was. So the market share isn't going to be there for the targets. If you get one lucky play, I don't know, congrats, but I'm not banking on it. Like I said, I haven't even looked at this guy this week, so no for me either.
Steve, Ted Ginn Jr. is not playing. Traquan Smith kind of thrown to the action here. Come on, you got to roster this guy, right?
Oh, yeah, boy, I'm all over that. Gary's good for one of these each segment. There's a guy on there he throws out now. It's like, what? Like, yeah, I guess not. I mean, it
I
wasn't
get tired,
wasn't
honestly.
even thinking about. I mean, honestly, like if you want to go in that range, if you want to go a little bit off the board, DJ Moore I think is an option in that Carolina game. But watch out for the wind. But I mean, if you're like in that range for a receiver, I think Moore is definitely an option there. I mean, the thing with Smith is that he doesn't go to the slot that often. He does sometimes. That will be the best matchup that he has because obviously the Ravens corners are just fantastic. But I mean, it's going to be a total boomer bust play. I think there's better plays on the board, a little bit more expensive, a little bit cheaper. But yeah, Smith, thanks, Gary. And I definitely won't play him.
All right.
Oh, Reed liked him. I don't know. I got to fight against Reed sometimes.
Reed is absolutely in love with him.
Listen, we'll keep you guys updated on the win situation as it progresses. Thank you so much, though, guys. We'll have you back in a couple minutes, so take a little break. But right now, it's a Francesa Friday on a Sunday. Take it away, Mr. Glasheen.
I'll throw a softball to start, Mike. Which game or games intrigue you the most today?
I will be interested to see if Cincinnati can stay with Kansas City. I also will be interested in the New England game because they're going to test Chicago for class this week. If Chicago's for real, let's see them hang in this game. Let's see them put pressure on Tom Brady. Let's see them not get dissected by that New England offense. And let's see them stay in this game and prove they can play with a quality opponent. I want to see that. Let's see if they have arrived or whether they're a team that really just had a couple of early season wins and is going nowhere this year. So that game will test Chicago for class. You're also going to test the Bengals to see if they can be anything more than they usually are, which is a team that will ultimately crumble and disappoint at any big spot. The other game to watch is New Orleans-Baltimore. The winner of that game has got a leg up to be a player without question in their conference, especially if it's New Orleans. But the one thing is, I don't think New Orleans will travel well in the postseason, and I don't see them getting home field in the NFC. I thought New Orleans would win 11, 12 games. I was very puzzled by week one. They score 40 the first week. Tampa Bay gets 48. I mean, look at Tampa Bay now and figure out how'd they go to New Orleans where New Orleans hasn't lost anybody else this year and get 48 points in that game. That game still puzzles me.
Your Jets, they've won 2 straight. They're home once again hosting the Vikings. Does JETS make it 3 in a row today?
I'd be surprised if they can win this game. If they do, they've arrived more quickly than I thought. The Colt team is not a very good team other than Luck, who's a wonderful player. They did jump on Denver, which was surprising. They've had a couple of good efforts. They will have to play their best game of the season. But Minnesota is not firing on all cylinders. Everything's not there. So it'll be Minnesota's the better team. I know the Jets would like to pay Cousins back because, of what happened in the offseason. I think it worked out better for them to wind up with a Donald than to wind up with a Cousins. I think the Jets will have trouble stopping them, especially if Cook is healthy, which he hasn't been. And I think Sam could have some trouble with the sophistication that's in his defense, especially if they can put some pressure on. If the Jets won this game, I would have to reevaluate them. This is not a game I expect them to win.
Packers are on a bye week, but you mentioned it. They barely got by San Fran. Are we ready to say the Packers are not a Super Bowl contender?
I'm not even sure they're a playoff contender.
Okay.
I don't think they're a very good team. I think, first of all, they're pushing Rodgers, and give Rodgers credit. I think he's playing hurt. I don't think there's any question. He's a great player. He's as good an athlete as ever played that position. He's definitely playing hurt. He's playing more hurt than anybody knows. He hasn't practiced a lot. I think that has affected their cohesion. But you know what? They're just not a really good team anywhere anymore. They're not a good team on specials. They're not a good team at all on defense. Their defense was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing on Monday night. Yes, I question whether they'll even make the playoffs. I don't think they're even remotely a Super Bowl team.
All right, check out Mike Francesa tomorrow. He's going to give us a brief preview of the Giants who are visiting the Falcons.
Reed is back, Greg is back, Anthony is back, we are back, and so is this show we call The Sweat. Time for off-the-wall picks, guys. A player you're taking
I'll throw a softball to start
this week. Go ahead, you're up first, Gregory.
Sorry, I was looking at the animation.
So are we.
I'm not going to lie, I was just like...
mesmerized.
Yeah, I was very mesmerized. It
was
distracting almost because it's so beautiful. Our boy Billy in the back does a great job of those, by the way.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, dude.
Oh, he gets airtime on the show. Big shout out for him.
Yeah, man.
So my off the wall pick, I kind of like LaShawn McCoy this week as a contrarian play. He's 5,600. I think he's going to go totally overlooked because of how many good running back plays there are. But if you look at McCoy, he has a good matchup against the Colts, and I think he's kind of gotten a bad draw this year just in terms of how bad the quarterback play has been. And I think Derek Anderson, starting quarterback for the Bills this week, is probably the best quarterback they've started the entire season. And if you look at McCoy, he's very involved in the offense, lately 45 touches over the last 2 weeks. So I think there's opportunity for McCoy to have a big game at low ownership.
Hey, Reed, who you going way off the wall for?
Yeah, first off, I have a bone to pick with Emerson. Fake news saying that I like Traquan Smith. It was a question. Let's have some context here. It was a question, do I like him over someone else? And I like Traquan Smith over the garbage receiver that was in that question. And second, I got verbally accosted for the first time by Buchanan. My life is complete. I appreciate that. It was an honor. So, off the wall pick is Chris Hogan, Emerson's favorite guy.
Oh my God, this is
awful. $3,800. He's extremely cheap. And look, Chris Hogan is not a number one receiver. He was never going to be a number one receiver, even when Edelman was out. We saw that. The most he's gotten so far is 5 targets in this season. And really, the best that he plays is when all the complements of that entire receiving corps is out there. I know that Gronk is out, but if you look at this game, I think there is a potential for someone like Chris Hogan who's going to get 0.01 ownership to get you a long touchdown. That's what he does. That is his game. Across the middle, deep. A lot of people are going to go to Josh Gordon and Edelman with the Gronk news. Chris Hogan is someone that you can take a flyer on at $3,800. Again, GPPs only, people. He is my off-the-wall pick because, again, he could give you 0, but he could also give you 15 DK fantasy points.
Dude, Dwayne Allen's going to outscore him. Chris Hogan's been an awful fantasy wide receiver. This is the worst. Off the wall pick ever.
Okay, Emerson.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, I mean, I guess
don't be
really
nervous.
Worse, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson here. I mean, I was talking about this a little bit in the over-under segment, but Jalen Ramsey's been terrible so far this year. And the Jags defense overall is disappointed. I mean, last year they were one of the best defenses of all time. Now they're 12th in total defense, 17th in coverage according to Pro Football Focus. Deshaun has averaged 26 DraftKings points for his career. The dynamic pricing has brought him all the way down to 5,500. He hasn't been that cheap in a long time. He scored almost 9 DraftKings points last year in his first ever appearance in the NFL, played just a half against the Jags. I think he's a great tournament play today. I think that he's going to find points. I think that game overall is going to have a little more scoring than we expect.
Do you approve it? Are you okay with that one?
I mean, like, whatever. It's better than Chris Hogan.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for now. We got to let Emerson have a little break to cool down
Calm
here.
down, bro.
Yeah, he needs to cool down. All right, guys, here's Adam Levitan with knowledge you simply can't live without.
So, Adam, what do you got?
All right. Sounds like I might be stealing some people's here, but I get to go first, so I get to steal everybody's. I'll say Robert Woods. The cup usage leaves so much behind, and then Robert Woods also gets this matchup against who knows what they're going to put out there, Jimmy Ward or I don't even know. Akila Witherspoon got benched. They're just disaster everywhere outside of Richard Sherman's safety play has been terrible. So Robert Woods, who continues to be underrated, really this team's number 1 wideout all year. In this matchup with Cooper Kupp out is just kind of a perfect storm scenario for Robert Woods. So I'll go ahead and make him my conviction play.
Yeah, love the Robert Woods call. I'm going to go in cash games. Load up on Beat Hard. Let's go. Boy. Let's get CJ Beathard. I'm saying he is the play in cash games. Obviously, Todd Gurley's the easy conviction play. I would have thrown him out there, but that's just, you don't need to listen to a podcast, have someone tell you to play Todd Gurley. So I'm not going to do that. I think Beathard makes sense in cash games this week. There's a lot of players that we want to pay up for on a short slate. And in general, the best lineups are paying down at quarterback. So I have conviction that that's the right play. Obviously, there's risk when you're playing CJ Beathard, but 4,800, I'm locking him in cash games. And I have conviction on playing him in cash games. Al, what's your conviction play and get us out of here?
I mean, look, Todd Gurley is the low-hanging fruit. He's very easy to say. You're all playing him. I'll move on and take a little bit more of a risk this week to David Njoku, leading the team with a 23.5% of market share of targets from Baker Mayfield. He's tied with Ebron for the most tight end targets over the last 2 weeks. And in one of the best game situations that you can be in going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is going to be a situation where I'm expecting a minimum of 7 targets for Njoku, possibly all the way up to 10, 11, with a good amount of the red zone looks as well. You can fit him in. You can fit all the guys that these other two gentlemen have mentioned as their conviction plays, as well as the free square with Todd Gurley. Start there, move on with the rest of your lineups, and take a stand in tournaments.
What up, what up? Time to work up a sweat, although, like, we literally are.
We actually are sweating
My
a little
back
bit.
is a waterfall.
It's disgusting.
It's very nasty.
Gross. Yeah.
Okay, so we have DK Live's Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, Steve Buchanan, the Action Network's Anthony Amico.
Quad box. All right. Working up a sweat. Who are players that maybe you're switching out of your lineup at the last minute?
Pivoting a little bit.
Somebody maybe, you liked earlier in the week, but now not so much. Maybe you got a pivot play.
Because of weather?
Because of the wind. Steve, don't freak out. Reed, I'm going to hit you first so Steve can come down from what I just said. Reed, take it away.
Yeah, mine's Taylor Gabriel. I think he's a fine play. Look, he's been proven to get a lot of targets in that Chicago offense. He's got a connection with Trubisky. He's done really well, and he's probably going to be a low-end wide receiver too. But if you look at his ownership, it's getting in the upwards of 15 to 20%. And at that price tag, that worries me a little bit. Anthony Miller, obviously back, or should be back in this game. And if you look at this game flow, I think it's going to be a lot of Tariq Cohen at that price tag. I just don't want to go to Gabriel. I mean, you have other guys down there. Even Josh Doxson is someone that I'm potentially looking at. Again, GPPs with Josh Doxson, but even Jermaine Kearse. There are other guys that I do like. Jermaine Kearse should see a ton of targets, obviously, with Quincy Enunwa out. So in terms of Taylor Gabriel at that price tag, more so ownership as opposed to the actual price, I'm going to be fading him.
All right, Steve's pivot play, Mother Nature.
No, I don't care about the stupid winds, and neither should you. I mean, it's not that big of a. What's it? A constant 20-mile-per-hour wind? Tornado. Yeah, that's what you got to worry about. So, anyways, so I was on the Colts defense to start the week. Obviously, with pick six Peterman expecting to play, that was going to be a smash spot there. Not that there's anything wrong with them still that, Derek Anderson is in there now, but I'm just going to go up and pay for the Jaguars against Houston. Obviously, I think Houston's going to score some points, but they're just letting him get leveled. It feels like every single week. It's almost like maybe they just don't like him. They're letting him take his bumps during the game or something. But I think there's some real opportunities there for the Jaguars to get some sacks in there and all that. So I just really like that spot for him much better.
Hey, Jeff, who are you thinking you're going to pivot off?
Yeah, so I mean, earlier in the week, I kind of liked Alvin Kamara. I mean, I still do. I don't think it's terrible. But you look at the price point and then you look underneath them. And Ezekiel Elliott at 8,100. Again, you have to look at this game and like the broader picture. I mean, Washington's down a bunch of players. Dallas's defense is getting healthy. And also look back at what Zeke Elliott did against the Redskins last year. He torched them in 2 games. Actually, he torched them in 1 game, and then Alfred Morris torched them in another game. So the Cowboys have a history of running very well against this Washington defense, and it's pretty recent. All things considered, I'd just rather pay down for the guy who we know is going to be out there all the time. We know is not going to get vultured by Mark Ingram or something at the goal line. I just think it's a better play, and I just think that, for the cheaper salary, I'd rather go Zeke over Kamara this week.
Anthony, what are you doing here, man? Maybe someone you were super hot on earlier, but, well, now you're just not really feeling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, earlier in the week, I was looking at Josh Reynolds, thought he was going to be a nice value play without Cooper Kupp. We know that the Rams live in 3 wide, 11 personnel. But as the week's gone on, I mean, the outlook has just gotten worse for me. We saw that Robert Woods is going to take Kupp's valuable slot role, which means Reynolds is probably going to be sacrificed to Richard Sherman today while they just try to work the other receivers on the other side of the field. Meanwhile, Terrell Pryor got Kupp by the Jets this week. Means more targets for Jermaine Kearse. He's going to play in the slot today against the Vikings, who don't have Mike Hughes. So I think that's going to be my pivot this week.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get your slate approved in a second. But first, let's get to some of these questions we have coming in on YouTube and Facebook. So,
wow, so many.
Reed, Cohen, Murray, or Johnson in flex?
Is it Kerryon Johnson or David Johnson? Johnson. I'm taking Cohen.
Yeah.
I'm taking Cohen.
All right, fine.
Real funny, Reed.
Real funny.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Jeff, is Alex Collins worth playing?
I don't. I mean, it depends what your other options are. I'm personally not using him in DFS for DraftKings. The Saints defense has actually been pretty good the last few weeks, by the way. I mean, I'm not really targeting the Ravens run game, so no.
Okay. Steve, the wind. No, I'm just kidding.
He was like getting ready to hang up and just start.
Steve,
I've never seen him this happy before.
Trubisky or Flacco?
I like Flacco in this spot. I really think this could be a sneaky spot for him. And obviously I like Snead. So I think, especially in tournaments, Flacco and Snead, I think that could be a pretty good stack.
David Anthony would like to know, Kittle or Evan Ingram?
Well, I mean, he has a great last name, so I got to make sure I give him the right answer
he does.
here. But I'm definitely going with Kittle. I mean, Kittle is probably the top target in that offense right now, I'd say. I think that game has a really good shot to shoot out. So I think Kittle's going to put up some good numbers today.
Hey, Marquise Goodwin, a good play versus the Rams, Reed.
I think so. I mean, when you look again, we talked about it quite a bit. CJ Beathard and these guys have to pass. I think if you want to do a contrarian stack, the 49ers, whether you want to go Kittle, Goodwin, or other guys out there. I mean, Garcon saw a lot of targets last week as well. So there are some places to go. 90+% on snaps on the field. So with this guy's speed, breakaway speed, and his talent, yeah, I'd play him.
Steve, Kenyon Drake or Kenny Stills?
I would go with Drake. I think this is a pretty good spot for Drake, and I'm not hearing a lot of buzz about him either. I like Drake.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, Winston or Brady or Luck?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Brady.
Anthony, which Ravens wide
No
receiver?
context, just play Brady.
Just Brady.
Okay, that's fine. We don't need context. It's fine. We got 6 minutes until kickoff. Which Ravens wide receiver is the best play, Anthony?
I'm going with Buke's guy. I think it's Willie Snead. Revenge spot.
Hey, Reed, would you start Gabriel or Marvin Jones Jr.?
Ooh, I would go Marvin Jones Jr. Again, Gabriel. I know Gabriel. Look, he's done really well, but I really think that's a Tariq Cohen game for me. So I would go Marvin Jones Jr.
My name's Reed. I like Tre'Quan Smith.
Wait, time out. Can we talk about Jeff's background here? Is that a kitchen? Is he in someone else's house? That's usually the background that we see. There's no.
That's obviously a microwave, Reed.
That's obviously a TV, I would say, right?
It's a television.
Is that like a pool?
Microwaves project images, Jesse?
It's a microwave television.
Wow, that's actually a brilliant idea.
20 seconds.
This is the future. All right.
Okay, so let's go to Slate approved picks.
Good idea.
Your lock of the day, player you are rostering no matter what. Go ahead and start us off there, Mr. Microwave.
Okay, I mean, mine is Zeke Elliott. I mean, he's the player I feel most comfortable with. I definitely like Kieran Johnson, but there's the Amir Abdul factor. You add in Sean Lee coming back for the Dallas defense. Also, look at the way the spread has gone in this game. It's all towards Dallas. I like Zeke Elliott this week.
Reed, I have a feeling who yours isn't, but go ahead, take it away.
Well, there's nothing in the shelves either. There's nothing there. No, I'm going to take Todd Gurley. Look, he is matchup proof. He's expensive. Just roster him everywhere.
Wow, not Tre'Quan Smith? Anthony, who's your Slate approved pick?
I mean, it's got to be Adam Thielen. He's the best wide receiver in fantasy this year. At least 10 targets in every game. At least 19 DraftKings points in every game. At least 27 DraftKings points in his last 5 games. Slot corner Buster Screen is out for the Jets. Thielen plays 60% of his snaps inside. This is a lock. Smash.
Hey, Steve. Slate approved.
I mean, if there's going to be someone to crap on their background, I mean, how about mine? It looks like I'm in the bathroom because this horrible color. I mean, I didn't pick the color, but that's just where I am. I mean, leave Jeff alone. He's got a nice
wait,
spot
who
back there.
picked the color? Who
Come
picked the color? Who picked your color?
All right, anyway, yeah, I got to paint this. Anyways, I love Alshon Jeffrey today. I think, he plays all over the field. I think he's in a great spot against the Panthers. And, he's averaging 9.6 targets since coming back and 20% of the red zone targets in just 3 games. He's going to be a big spot today.
Okay, we have about 2.5 minutes left in the show. We got some time to hit on some questions.
Yeah, a couple more.
Mr. Defense, Jeff. Lions, Ravens, Bills, Texans, or Eagles defense? Lions, Ravens, Bills, Texans, or
Lions.
Eagles?
Oh, my.
Okay. Yeah, oh, my.
Hey, Reed, Albert Wilson or John Brown?
John Brown. Albert Wilson, again, he's the huge chunk plays. I don't think that comes back. John Brown is in a prime slot. Willie Snead, again, is in a good spot, but John Brown as well.
Don't butter me up.
Ooh.
Let's see.
Do you need, I can jump in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
T.Y. or Edelman? Steve.
I'll take Edelman in that spot. I want to see Hilton's healthy first before we really start going all in on him, so I'll take Edelman.
Yeah, that's
matchup for T.Y. too. I mean, the Bills secondary is pretty good. So.
Yep.
Let's see. Play Howard or Ito Smith, Anthony?
Oh. I'm going to go with Ito Smith, I think. I mean, Howard's been losing work every week while Ito's been gaining it. I think Ito's the play.
Hey, Reed, somebody needs a Lamar Jackson pivot.
Lamar Jackson? Hopefully it's not Lamar Jackson. Maybe it's Lamar Miller.
They said Lamar Jackson, so.
Low ball league.
Pivot off of 0. Play anyone, and you get balls.
A perfect pivot.
Every single person out, Josh Allen. No. if it's Lamar Jackson, I mean, there's obviously some cheap guys on the slate. CJ Beathard, if we're talking quarterback. We're talking Lamar Miller. Look, there's some really good. Peyton Barber is someone that I'm looking at in that low 3.8K range there. He's not going to give you a ton, but if you want to save some money, GPPs, he could be someone you can go to.
Last one here, Steven.
Last one.
Snead or Curse?
Oh, that's a brutal one. Play both. Can you get them both in? They're both, I think, in huge play. Man, geez. I'm just going to go with Snead, but that is like so unbelievably close.
And that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah.
I knew
That
you'd
wasn't
enjoy
very
it.
wind, though.
The wind, that wind, though.
He's fading.
I stuck up for you, Jeff.
Fade the
All
wind.
right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have fun today. Enjoy your Sundays.
Yep, this has been The Sweat. As always, we had a great time. I'm Jessie Coffield. He's Emerson Lotzia. We'll be back tomorrow
night,
at 6 p.m.
O'clock, 6 to 7 here.
You know where you can find us, anywhere on the internet, Facebook, Twitter,
YouTube, the DK Live app.
DK Live.
So thanks for hanging out, man. A lot of
yeah.
you guys watched today. We appreciate it. Tell your friends,
Send your
family.
questions, friends, family, tweet it, everything. We'll see you later.
Deuces.